We are in danger of our kids being like my son Chris. And Mary Lou knows Chris well, and she's watched him grow up. And her first question was, how's Chris? And he's now 28. But I remember years and years ago when we were at Mary Lou's grocery store in Burlington. And this was pre-internet. This was pre-debit card. And I was walking towards the cash of Mary Lou's with a basket with a few items for dinner. And I said to Chris, oh, I've only got $20 in my pocket. I don't know if it'll be enough for these groceries. Do a quick estimate, would you? So Chris looked in the basket and he looked at me and he said, I don't know how to do that. I said, but Chris, you do estimation in class every day. He said, I know, but it doesn't look like this. In a nutshell, folks, maybe there's part of the problem. I used a performance assessment with Chris in Mary Lou's and he failed it miserably. Because the performance assessment I presented him with did not look like the questions in the classroom. If we don't teach and assess for transfer, we're wasting our time. Kids simply being able to follow the procedure is the equivalent of the soccer player who learns to dribble the ball between those bright orange cones that are about this high. They're very friendly, they don't attack the other player, and they're evenly spaced. But the player who can dribble that ball between the cones may not be able to dribble to save her life in the game because the game looks messy. So these are very important messages for us as we ask the big questions around curriculum, assessment, and instruction. Design our summatives, making sure that they do require kids to take their learning and apply it in a new or unfamiliar situation. Also make sure that we get a big bang for the buck, which means that your culminating performances at whatever grade level should be addressing multiple overall expectations. You want to get as much evidence as you can out of these things, especially if kids are spending time on them. And in order to decide what kind of a task, very often the expectations will provide hints as to whether the task is going to be write, do, or say, but typically a rich performance task involves the kids writing stuff, doing stuff, and saying stuff. That's the nature of a rich task. What am I talking about? Well, maybe something like this. A little chunk of stage 1 from Wiggins and Mackay, a little chunk of critical learning, overall expectations in grade 10 academic mathematics. By the end of the course, students will do those things. A performance task to provide evidence of those and other things, design a roller coaster. And this doesn't just mean pretend this, pretend that, pretend you're... No, we don't do any pretend in my classroom. We do it for real. We take on the roles. You are a project engineer. You're leading a team. Because if we do those kinds of things, that's going to be more engaging for the kids. Have them dress up with a silly tie like I've got on today. Pretend they're engineers. And of course, so what we can do is actually, we can do a lot of cross-curricular stuff here too. Because they also have to be able to speak really well when they present their findings. This can be really, really rich and engaging for kids. And there is no one perfect design for the roller coaster. What we do know is it must scare the living daylights out of people who ride it, but it must be safe. There are success criteria associated with this, some of which are mathematical, and some delve off into other subject areas. So there's an example of a big, whopping, culminating task that provides multiple evidence of, yes, critical mathematics, but also other subject areas.